Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
So I'd like to welcome Martin Frauenstein, the candidate for the new Conservative Party for the Otaki electorate, to the Beach FM General Election Show. Hello, Martin.
Hello, Catherine.
Martin's joined me in the studio today, which is a nice treat for me.
And for me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Martin, you firstly, though, need to read our disclaimer due to your current employment.
Yes,
so
thank you very much. I'm a state servant employed by the Ministry of Health in the role of Principal Architect within the Data and Digital Directorate. During this 2020 election cycle, I do not express any view that could be attributed to the Ministry of Health. I do not speak or act on behalf of the Ministry of Health. I do not answer any question or questions or debate any topic related to the Ministry of Health. I do not answer any questions on any aspect of the Ministry of Health. And finally, I do not answer any questions on any personnel associated with the Ministry of Health. I represent the New Conservative Party as a candidate for the Otaki electorate. The views I express are those of the Conservative Party or my own when stated as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. So in this program, we like to learn more about the candidates. So you were born in South Africa.
Yes.
Moved with your family to Wellington in 1996. Can you tell me why you decided on our fine land?
I was asked to come here.
Oh, okay.
And at the time there was a project for Quotable New Zealand, Quotable Values, to redesign the National Property Database. And the project manager was from South Africa and had done a similar project with me as the lead technical person in South Africa. So she asked me to come to New Zealand.
Wonderful. And then you decided to stay?
Well, originally it was planned for 3 years.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if we got to the end of the 3 years yet.
I don't know, my maths isn't that great, but I think that might be a little bit more than 3 years. So you stood for the new Conservative Party in the Christchurch, how do you say it? Is it Island? Island seat. Why politics for you now then?
Well, I grew up amongst the Amatkosa people in South Africa. And the region that I grew up in is the same region that Steve Biko, the ANC activist that unfortunately died in police custody in South Africa. And so the region in itself is rather political.
Sure.
And my father always told me that when I turned 18, that is, that I have no right to complain about the government unless I vote.
Okay. And
if I vote a second time and the government still doesn't listen to me, I've got to do something.
Yeah.
So, and that's been a mantra throughout my life, in that if I don't contribute something, then I can't complain. But if I do contribute, then I can complain.
Okay.
Or change it.
Or change it. So that's what you're doing now.
Yes.
Running for. So the New Conservatives are known as a conservative nationalist party that promotes family values.
Yes.
And Judeo-Christian principles. Why would it be wrong to simply label the New Conservatives as a Christian party?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain the difference?
It's quite simple, because we believe in, first of all, the democracy of a freedom of speech and association. And that democracy was given to us by the Greeks way back early before Christ. And the Judeo-Christian principles is what we've been grown up, is what Western culture is in actual fact based on. And those are the foundational aspects of it. We don't say that as a Christian party could say that it's only Christian values, because it's not as such. We believe in the democracy of people being able to contribute, and the voice of the people, not the voice of a particular religion, is what in actual fact makes the decisions. And that leads us to the idea of democracy, and what actually brought me closer to the New Conservative idea was the idea of a binding citizens-initiated referenda, where the people's voice can in actual fact be heard. And so the basis of a New Conservative is fresh thinking, a new way of thinking. Einstein told us that the thinking that creates the problem can't fix it.
Gotcha, yeah.
So the new Conservative I view as that new approach, that new thinking. Mm-hmm. And we're looking for real democracy because successive governments in New Zealand have actually ignored the voice of the people. Mm-hmm. And even if you look at MMP, the Royal Commission said that the threshold for a new party to join MMP would be 3%. And the two major parties decided on 5%. Mm. Then successive referenda have been completely ignored, even when the referenda have had percentages of 90 and 80 plus. They still ignore it. Mm. So why have the referenda? Why, in actual fact, go to the problem of stating a question, having people discuss it, and then ignoring it, if it's not for your own good that you're actually there. And then if you look at they could turn around and say, but you can contribute and make submissions to select committees and, well, excuse me, there have been, of late, successive select committees that have listened, and if you look at the abortion law reform, 90 plus or 95% of the submissions were against whatever it was that they wanted to do. And what happened? A conscience vote, which is what? A group of MPs deciding for the rest of the country. Well, the rest of the country said no. Those that took the problem of making a submission said no, they didn't want something. So, and the same with the euthanasia bill. So it's a case of governments devaluing the voice of the people. So, and is that a democracy? No, it's not. It's authoritarianism that we happen to vote in once every 3 years. And that's not right. The people need to be made important again. Okay. And that's the important part about it. Mm-hmm.
So you talk about the erosion of core family values. What are those values that you're seeing being diminished?
Well, firstly, the family as a mother, a father, and a mother being able to care, because the bond that a mother has with her child is, in actual fact, the initial stability that is formed. And a mother can only truly care for a child if the environment that the two are living in is, in actual fact, complemented by a father that is present. And there's nothing that's been done in the past to actually foster the idea of keeping the family together. If you look at the fact that a 12-year-old can decide for themselves, or a school can decide that a 12-year-old can have an abortion without parental consent. And that's not, and yet the parents need to consent to a school trip that the child goes on.
Yeah.
Now, somewhere along the line, there's something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And the role of the state is not to make decisions for parents in the family, but to actually create the environment for families to flourish. If you look at from a tax perspective, right now they are taxed independently. We're saying combine the tax, have the first 20,000 tax-free, and split it. So immediately the money isn't first given to the government and the government deciding who's going to have it back again. Mm-hmm. If you earn something, then you can keep the first 20,000. So surely that's the better idea versus giving it to somebody else to make a decision for you.
Yeah.
So what else is there from a point of view of housing, for argument's sake? How do you help first home buyers to actually get into the market? And helping people understand that in working, in having a stable home life, in actual fact, helps the child to develop, because that's what a child actually needs, a stable environment to be able to develop in. And then you'll immediately look at the situation with children and the child abuse situations that we have. You look at people wanting to address child poverty. Well, why doesn't the child have the food at home? And that's the reason. So giving food, as much as what it's good for the child to have food at school, But asking the teachers to now be caterers as well,
Yeah.
that's not what they're trained for. They're trained to teach.
Yeah. So you've also been quite vocal about what you describe as need to remove waste from government. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, government cannot produce any wealth. They can only spend your money and mine. And what gives them the ability to decide better than what you and I can as to how my money should be spent. So the waste and the bureaucratic processes that are put in place that add no value. My past has been implementing manufacturing systems in factories. And there the idea is to do something efficiently without without wasting time, resource, material, whatever. And when you can see the amount of time wastage that goes on just to get things to cabinet to be able to make a decision without adding any value to anything. So why does it take so long to get a project, take for example Transmission Gully?
Yeah.
How long did it take? 40-something years?
I don't know, it's taking a while. Well, let's move on to, immigration. I understand the New Conservative Party is against the UN Global Compact on Migration, but you're adamant you're not anti-immigration. Can you explain that for us?
It's actually quite simple.
Okay, good. I like simple.
It's very simple. I'm going to... Okay, I live in a house that has 3 bedrooms. So if I was going to have people come around and visit, if I had another 10 people come and visit me, do you think I'd be able to accommodate them in my house?
For a short time. I think you might get on each other's nerves after a while.
Okay, so it might be for a night or two.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. After that, we couldn't live like that with the extra 10 people in the house. Well, then why do we do it for the country? Why don't we fix the housing problem first for New Zealanders so that we reduce the need for housing, and then we turn around and say, yes, people can come in. And it's not that we're against immigration, it's a net zero. So if 5 leave, 5 can come in.
Gotcha, yeah. A few more people have come back in the last, since March anyway.
Yes, they have. And they need to be housed.
Yeah. If I look forward now to this election, 2014, previous Conservative Party nearly broke through the 5% party vote threshold, but in 2017 they rebranded New Conservative Party, but only managed to attract 6,000 votes. So how's the party planning to win back the supporters?
Well, I think it's an education aspect around what it is that MMP actually does for you. We've got 2 votes. Okay, and we have a party vote and we have an electoral vote. And in the last election, a lot of people expected Winston to go in a certain direction because they wanted a certain outcome. And he decided no, he's going to go somewhere else. So what that actually tells us is that if people vote for what they believe, if they vote for their principles, then they will be in actual fact voting, and whatever it is that they get, then that's the decision. Trying to second guess the system doesn't actually work. And we've had a lot of feedback from people saying that's the mistake that they made last time. They didn't vote for their principles, they didn't vote for their values, and they didn't vote for what the party is in actual fact putting forward. And they were voting more, trying to be selective as to, or strategic, I think is the word that some people use. But if you vote for what you believe in, then surely that's the value of your vote, not trying to be strategic.
So you're out there educating people, telling them about your policies and your... And
our policies are not policies made up by career politicians. Because if you look at the parties, the candidates, and I think we're one of the very few, for want of a better term, minor parties that in actual fact have candidates throughout the general seats.
Yes.
And we even have candidates in the Maori seats.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of candidates are small business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Small business owners, by their very nature, are entrepreneurs solving problems, not making some way out kind of decision, but they're dealing with day-to-day problems, solving day-to-day problems that we have now. And that's in actual fact what we're looking for in government, to solve the problem, not to go and spend some ideological rant that giving our sovereignty to the UN with the Migration Pact, as you mentioned earlier on, and that we take back our sovereignty, that the Kyoto Agreement and the Paris Accord, those were good intentions, but they've cost the taxpayer billions. And how much have those billions actually fixed the environment? You can't point to any one particular thing in New Zealand that needs some kind of correction. Our rivers, for argument's sake. The farmers have invested millions around our rivers. That's got nothing to do with the Paris Accord. And all of that money going offshore and our sovereignty going offshore, is that what we actually voted for? No. So let's fix the problems here and export the solution, and that makes money for New Zealand.
Well, talking about fixing the problems here, how do you think, so you're running in the Otaki electorate, specifically what are the local challenges that you personally think you'll be looking at to address?
The first one is the lack of jobs. The lack of industry. Levin, for argument's sake, used to be a centre of light engineering and a commercial hub for the agricultural people around. And right now, there's a large amount of homelessness, and successive governments haven't actually put any infrastructure in place to be able to help the people in Levin and Otaki actually get the work done there. Okay. The other part is that this transmission gully has been a successive failures, but now we're going to get the thing done. Okay. So my question is, what is it that's actually happening around making the jobs available? Because people are now going to want to come and live here. So when people come and live there, what do you need? You need houses, you need jobs. So which jobs can you actually create? If you take 1080 for argument's sake and get rid of the 1080 or phase it out and replace it with the fur industry and the pelts and the hunting to control the pests, you then have an industry that creates jobs. And when you create jobs, you can have a more stable environment that families can live in. The other part that we see here on the coast is that there's a large demographic of older people. And where's the closest hospital?
Yeah.
That needs to be recognized. If you look at the health plan, they say that you in actual fact are wanting to remove or move the healthcare back to the home again. Well, you need some kind of centre, even if it's a 24-hour centre where the first assessment can be made as to does this person need to go to hospital and then take them to hospital, or is there some minor treatment that can be delivered away or closer to home, away from the hospital. So that's the next biggest thing. When you make this area more accessible to the people working in Wellington, you're going to have families. Yeah. Families have children. Children need schools. So what is the plan for additional schooling? And not just secondary schooling, but primary schooling as well. Yeah. So where is that? Those are the kinds of questions that need to be answered, not in 5 years' time or in 3 years' time when the problem actually hits us, but we need the plan now. And where is that plan? We look at the Paraparaumu Airport. Well, That's a service that we could in actual fact develop, and there are many other options available for developing that and having an alternative here on the coast for an emergency flight somewhere else. To have to drive all the way to Wellington to get on the plane to send a person to Starship Hospital or something.
Yeah.
That's not clever, is it?
No, not particularly. It's a bit of a time waste. There's the waste again. It's a theme. There's a theme there.
There is a theme there.
All right, so finishing off, these ones can be a little bit tricky.
Yes.
So, but I think you'll be fine. Can you answer what first comes to mind, please? Would you rather eat sweet or savoury?
Sweets.
Sweet. Rather be hot or cold?
I'd rather be hot and sticky.
Okay. Beach or forest?
Beach.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Cat or dog?
Both.
Classical or rock?
Classical.
Oh, how lovely. Well, it has been absolutely wonderful having you in it today, Martin. And thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Good luck with everything going forward.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to add that on Monday, there's a meeting at the Waikanae Golf Club, and Leighton Baker, our party leader, is going to be there, and you can welcome to come along and meet him. You can
Ask
meet
some more
me
questions.
Too. Ask some more questions.
All right, lovely. Thanks so much. Thanks for coming in, Martin.
Thanks a lot, Catherine.
Thank you.
106.3 Beach FM.